Hello, a very warm welcome to everyone, all our members and our viewers. I am Prajwal and I'm joined by my colleagues, Dr. Christina, Dr. Karan, and Dr. Leah. Switch India is a non-profit organization which aims to improve healthcare and make it more accessible. But in order to do that, our future physicians have to be equipped with knowledge and skills that are necessary. In a bid to do that, we at Medical Education Avenue from Switch India are bringing you Ask the Expert. This is a series of interviews wherein we bring experts from different specialities and they will be answering your questions. So, to kick off with our first ever session of Ask the Expert, we have Dr. Rajmohan Seetharaman, sir. Sir will be talking about how to overcome the hurdles in publishing your first research paper. Dr. Rajmohan is currently working at the Department of Pharmacology and Therapeutics at SAIT GS Medical College and KEM Hospital. He is a distinguished clinical researcher with 22 accepted journals and articles from various high impact PubMed journals. From being awarded the ICMR studentship in 2015 to now being invited for various peer reviewing articles at BMJ Open and many other such journals, he has achieved a lot. Sir, it is indeed a great pleasure for Switch India to have you with us. Would you like to say something, sir?
It's a pleasure to actually join this session with Switch India. I think I was myself a part of Switch India, so it gives me an immense amount of pleasure to join this session and help our budding medicos to actually learn something about research. Also, what I want to say that whatever I say in this session are my personal views, and they do not represent the views of my organization or my department. So yeah.
Okay, sir. So right away, we will bring you questions that have
Hmm.
been brought to us by our members. We've curated them and
Hmm.
brought to you a compilation of 5 to 6 questions. This will mostly be around the topic of how to publish your research and what are the problems or obstacles regarding publication of a research.
Hmm.
So, to start off with the first question, which has actually been asked by multiple students, as a beginner in first year or second year, how do you get started with research? How does one select the topic, the guide, and learn about the different types of research?
So to start with, I want to tell you that there are usually two kinds of people that we overcome. So there are people who are, very proactive and people who are reactive. So the proactive ones are the ones, who will usually have a research topic and they just want to find a way to get it done. Whereas your reactive people would be people, who just want to do a research. So they are not sure what they want to do. They just want to do something for USMLE. And I mean, whatever type of people they are, it's fine because you are in your first MBBS, second MBBS, and it's great that you just want to do some research. So what I would recommend is firstly how to derive a research question. So I want to tell you here that a bench to bedside journey is very important to decide a research question. You can't decide it on the bench or on the bedside. You need both bench and bedside. So what you can do is maybe you can go and consult a faculty. Now you don't need to consult a senior faculty, and they might not even take it in the right way. They might probably feel that you like need some spoon feeding and they will not take it well. So you can probably approach someone who's a senior resident or maybe someone who's a lecturer. And I'm saying you need a faculty because they are people who have completed an MD or an MS in that course. So they are well acquainted with the theoretical as well as the practical aspects of that subject. And they also study about the recent advances when they are clearing their MD. And if you approach them, they can give you some ideas about some thrust areas in research about that topic. And what you can do is, even if you have a research question, you can go and validate it with a junior faculty. And after that, you have to go back and read about that topic. For example, if I tell you that there's a lot of scope in NASH, so you have to go and read about NASH. And after that, what you can do is you can probably go to the OPD after you read and you can validate as to whatever you are reading, whether such findings are available in the OPD and what is something different in the OPD. For example, you might go to the OPD and see that certain drugs are being used off label, so that can become an additional research question. So you have to go and enhance OPD, once you plan it in the bench. And then once you go and go to the OPD or you go to the ward and you enhance this research question, you have to further one validate it in the books or in the resource materials as to whether if they're using some drug off label, does it have any rationale, and is it there in the guideline or no, and you have to evaluate whether this is worth being put in the guidelines or no. So in that way, you develop a research question which is very novel. So this is about finding a research question, and about approaching a faculty. I would say initially to develop your research question, I think you need to approach a junior faculty. But when you're clear with your research question, one is you can always approach a subject expert. For example, if you want to do something in general surgery, go and approach a general surgeon or a internal medicine person. But again, I want to tell you that apart from approaching a clinician, you also might need a pharmacologist or a PSM person. Why? Because clinicians, have a great amount of subject knowledge. They know about the thrust areas in their subject. But again, the study design is very important. Statistics is very important. Deciding a sample size is very important. So you need a combination of both a specialist as well as a pharmacologist or a PSM person. And when I did my first research, it was in the subject of forensic medicine. And that time I'd approached a PSM person. And when I again did my ICMR project in ophthalmology, I'd approached a PSM person. So in that sense, my basically study design and my statistics and my sample size calculation was very solid when I was doing these studies. That's why they were very publishable studies. So yeah, and again, if you want to learn about the type of studies, the best would be probably a research methodology course where you can learn about what are the types of these studies. But again, you can discuss with a PSM or a pharmacologist as to what can be practically done in your institute.
Okay, sir. So the journey from bedside to the bench is basically the
Yeah,
theme,
very
and
important.
also to integrate faculty members from PSM or pharmacology who are more technically sound with regards to research and methodology of a research. Thank you, sir.
In your
Dr.
first
Karan?
research, I would always recommend that. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
All right. So another question that a lot of our members did ask was if you can guide us through the process of publishing a paper.
Okay. So here I'm assuming that your manuscript is ready and you want to go about publishing a paper. Okay.
Yes.
So what you have to do is to publish a paper, you need certain documents. So one is basically your main manuscript. You need a cover letter. You also need a title page. Okay. So title page is basically a document containing the details of the authors, the number of words, the number of tables. So these are three essential documents that are always there. Apart from that, you need to go and select a journal where you want to publish. So selecting a journal is again very important because the type of journal where you publish it determines how much outreach it will have, how much impact your research will have. So to search a journal, there are various ways. First is, if you probably know some journals of that particular subject, or you can ask some faculty members if they know some good journals. That is like one method. And other methods, you can actually put in your topic in on PubMed and see where like similar articles have been published. For example, you want to publish something on NASH, so you just put NASH on PubMed and see in NASH, and I mean you might be having one more specific thing like a something like a pharmacotherapy or something, so you can add that as well and see where similar articles have been published. That gives you a broader idea about the type of journal. You can also see where people of that specialty publish. For example, you have a faculty member in pharmacology and you see where they have published. So you can probably go and check out those journals as an option to publish. One more thing is, your publishers like your Wiley, Elsewhere, Springer, they have a journal suggestor. So there you can just put in your abstract, and they will suggest you a few journals that you can publish in. So this is how you kind of find a journal, and then what you have to do is you have to read the author instructions. So when you are doing your first publication, then I mean I would recommend you to read the entire author instructions. But if it's your second or third publication, and if you're planning to put it in an international journal, you don't always need to read the author guidelines. There are just like 3-4 points that you need to read, because a lot of international journals, they allow free format submission. So you can literally submit it. I mean, there's a standard international format in which you can submit. Just you have to ensure that 3-4 points are as per journal requirements. But again, the Indian journals are very specific about author guidelines, and you have to literally read it because Indian journals are also rejecting papers if it is not as per format, whereas international journals might just ask you to amend and resubmit. So apart from that, once you read the author guidelines and you submit, initially there's a technical check. So this technical check basically, happens to check for your plagiarism, whether your article meets the journal requirements in international journals, and then it's basically done by someone who is not a medico. So they'll just check for the technical aspects and then send it back to you if any revision is required. Even if there is plagiarism, they'll ask you to reduce it and send it, not reject it because of plagiarism. After that, it goes to the initial editorial board to screen and see, whether your article is suitable for publication. So they usually assign something called as a priority score. So literally, depending on the number of articles they accept, they'll probably have, the top 10 articles which reach the priority score, or the top 20 articles which have the highest priority score will be given a preference to go for external review. And then in your external review, they might invite up to 2 to 3 reviewers who will review your paper, and then accordingly, you will get suggestions to modify it. There could be a major revision, there could be a minor revision, or there could be a rejection after peer review. So based on that, once you address the peer review queries, it will be again sent to a re-review. And then finally, the journal will decide whether to accept or reject it based on the peer review satisfaction.
Okay. That definitely helps. And I think one of the wonderful points that you picked up was plagiarism. So, I mean, can you guide a little bit on that?
Sorry, on
On plagiarism.
plagiarism, yeah. So about plagiarism, I want to say that as a junior author, the reason as to why this plagiarism happens is you're not confident about your language. Generally, if you happen to publish one or two high impact articles, you are very confident that you can just write in what you feel like. A lot of people are not confident, whether their sentences make sense. So what they do is they usually pick up the entire sentence. But if you see, for example, when you write an answer paper, okay, you read from the textbook. But whatever you write in the answer paper, is it similar to what you read from the textbook? It's different, right? You just pick up the main data. You might pick up the numbers, you might pick up whatever the facts, but there is no plagiarism because of the fact that the content is entirely new. It's written in your own words. So when you write a manuscript, you should ideally write it in your own words. You should not really worry about the language. So whatever you feel like, just write it. And then, there are basically applications out there which can improve your language. For example, Grammarly is there. Then you have Quillbot, which can also improve your language. Nowadays, people can also use ChatGPT to improve your language, but in the end, you just have to acknowledge whatever you are using.
Mm.
And you can also, have a plagiarism check done. For example, you can run it through Quillbot. So Quillbot can, exactly tell you which are the sections wherein there is a plagiarism, or Grammarly Premium can also tell you about the sections where there is plagiarism. So accordingly, wherever there is plagiarism, you can modify it. But I think plagiarism is not an issue once you have published in a high impact journal, because you literally know that you're confident about your language, and you're sure that you can again rephrase it using a few apps if the language isn't great enough.
Okay.
It's basically like
So if
writing your answer paper, reading a book and writing the answer paper. So just when you're writing a research paper, just look at the numbers and remember the numbers, but you don't have to put in the entire words that are there in the reference article. Yeah.
that helps, that helps. Thank you.
So the next question has been sent to
Yeah.
us by Nitish Kumar from Grant Medical College. He asks that what are the types of research articles a student can publish, and do review articles like systematic review, wherein you get to be the first author, you get the first authorship. Do systematic review articles make any impact?
I'm not sure if you guys have heard about the evidence-based pyramid. So in evidence-based pyramid, systematic reviews and meta-analysis, they rank the highest. So these are articles which make the highest amount of impact. Then you have your RCTs, and then below RCTs you have your observational studies, and then you have your case reports. and then in the end you have your commentaries, editorials, etc. So if you are asking me whether they will make impact, I would say they make the highest amount of impact. Now, as a student, I would tell you that doing a systematic review and a meta-analysis is the best thing that you can do. But what I have seen is that when I've attended undergraduate conferences and seen people presenting this, I've seen that their systematic review and meta-analysis is not up to the mark because of the fact that they haven't taken any training in systematic review and meta-analysis. Also, a lot of them do not really follow the Prisma guidelines. They do not actually register with Prospero, and they also do not carry out a meta-analysis. So they think that we'll only do a systematic review, but it doesn't work like that. Generally, when you do that, you have to aim to also do the meta-analysis. But for some reason, if you do not get your forest plot, only then you publish it as a systematic review. Whenever you do it, the aim is to do it as a systematic review plus meta-analysis. Now, I want to tell you that when you are planning to do a systematic review and meta-analysis, I would recommend you to focus more on the process. Maybe spend about a month or 1.5 months to learn how it is done, to learn how a Raven software is used, and build these skills. Because I think the person who was asking me was from Grand Medical College, JJ, right? So in colleges like this, like KM, Sion Hospital, Nair Hospital, Grand Medical College, here there are some clinicians who are called as key opinion leaders. So they are some of the leading subject experts in the field. So the problem that they have in their department is that they have a lot of research questions. They have more than 10 to 15 research questions, but they do not have experts in systematic review and meta-analysis. So if you can be someone who is an expert in systematic review and meta-analysis, you can just go and tell it to these HODs that I am an expert in this and I've learned these skills. So if you have something, you can let me know. So there are a lot of things which they really want to do, but they just don't have the manpower to do it. So maybe they can ask you to do it. And having a key opinion leader in your publication would really enhance the credibility of a publication and would help you to publish in a better journal. And of course, later you can also maybe do something yourself. But I mean, you do have a good scope for collaboration if you can do systematic reviews and meta-analysis. Apart from that, I want to say that RCT is another option, but the problem here is that since RCT doesn't require a very huge learning curve, that's why there is a lot of competition for people who want to do RCT. So there are people who want to do RCTs even though their name is not published in that RCT. For example, there are a lot of residents who are just willing to do it just to have a document saying that they have worked in that RCT. And there are some residents for whom this is like their biggest achievement in research, is having their name as someone who worked in an RCT. So for you to get an opportunity in an RCT as an undergraduate student is very difficult, and as a resident also it's very difficult to have your name published in an RCT. Even if you have, it will be like a very low quality RCT. It won't be some RCT which would make a very big impact. So for even if you're a resident or whatever, systematic review is a better way to make an impact. Apart from RCT, if you want to do something interventional, I would also recommend you to maybe try out animal studies. So pharmacology departments in a lot of colleges, they have something called as an IAC, that is Institutional Animal Ethics Committee. So, and they usually have a 6 monthly meetings, and there you can kind of try doing animal studies, and you would probably require about 70,000 to 1 lakh funding to do that. So, I mean, that you can try as a group. Apart from that, you can try doing observational studies as well. But again, observational studies are very easy to publish in Indian journals. But if you want to publish them in high impact journals, you should be prepared to, face about 10 to 15 rejections, and only then it can get published. So publishing an observational study is just a matter of luck, because what happens is the peer review comments that you usually get is that even if your study is good, firstly, I mean, your study should be good, but even if your study is good, they'll ask you, why is it only a single center study? Why is it not a multi-centric study? Why is it not a multinational studies? And these are things which are really out of our hands as a student. So, I mean, in that sense, people really require you to publish an observational study with a very big sample size. So, I think you should do one just to, get an experience of doing something on the field, because RCTs are not possible for you. So maybe an observational study will help you to learn, how research is done and all on the field. Apart from that, the other option that I want you guys to try is maybe a commentary or a letter to editor. Because if you look at the other types of articles, they might go through an extensive peer review and it takes a lot of time. But a letter to editor is something which can even get published in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and even a commentary can get published in a month. So letter to editors is something as simple as, for example, you come across an RCT in a journal and you have some points of criticism. I mean, you kind of look at the guidelines for RCT, like the concert guidelines, and you see that okay, there are some merits of this study, there are some demerits, and what could be the implications of these merits and demerits. So you can probably write down whatever views you have, and you can publish it as a letter to the editor. So this kind of shows that you have some subject knowledge and you're interested in the study and you have some idea about study designs and all. So it can also help you get a publication, and these are also indexed on PubMed. So a letter to editor is a very easy way to get a publication, and you also have commentary. So you can also write on basically topics of topical interest. For example, now you can see that ChatGPT is very famous. Okay, so everyone is talking about ChatGPT. So there are a lot of people, who are publishing commentaries on ChatGPT. So recently there was a commentary on whether clinic letters can be written using ChatGPT, and then there is someone else, who's like discussing about data privacy using ChatGPT. So in that sense, you can discuss topics which are of topical issue, or also if you are thinking about something scientific, then there are some recently approved drugs like tirzepatide, or some monoclonal antibodies, so you can talk about them. One letter to editor that I did was basically about tirzepatide. So in tirzepatide, what I saw is that in the studies, there was an effect on the blood pressure as well as some effect on pre-diabetes. So and the author hadn't discussed this in their article. So I thought that I should probably discuss these findings in a separate letter to the editor. So that way I wrote a letter to the editor. So they can also be about things which are expressed in an article but not discussed much in that article. Apart from that, you can discuss about anything, even COVID, chat gpt. So I mean, that's one option. And I believe as a student you should not work on a single publication, you should work on multiple publications. Because for example, you plan an observation study and you wait for it to get completed. It's going to take almost a year, and for a year you aren't really going to work on one study. So better like you put in one study, and when its protocol review is going on, you probably write a letter to the editor, and then you start the study. And there are days when you don't have to go to the OPD, you don't have to go to the wards. That day maybe work on a commentary. Again, regarding case reports, what I want to tell you is that initially, like previously, there was a good trend of publishing case reports, but now a lot of journals do not accept case reports. So they either want you to do a case report plus literature review, which will become as good as a review article, or they would ask you to do a case series. So you should have a lot of cases and do a case series. So these are some options, and case reports are available to you. I mean, if you have good relations with your professors and they permit you to publish. So yeah, these are some
So,
options for you.
so case reports, letters to editor, and commentary. These probably are,
Yeah,
as per my understanding, the easiest way to get started with a
get
publication,
started.
right?
Yeah.
Okay,
It
sir.
gives you a confidence, that you can publish in a journal, and by the time you maybe build something substantial, you can start off with something.
Okay. We had another question that came to us from Ms. Akanksha from Topiwala National Medical College. What she asked is, what are the problems that are usually encountered during data collection, compilation, and interpretation, and any means to overcome those, or any tips to overcome those?
Okay. So to talk about data collection, some problems that you might encounter while data collection is firstly that whatever you think, you might not get data as per that. For example, your data might not be accurate, or you might not be getting those number of patients that you desired in your sample size, or the findings that you're expecting might not be there, or maybe like some other technical challenges. So for overcoming that, I believe that you should always do a pilot study. Firstly, I also told you that you have to go from bench to bedside, which is an important thing. to make your research question stronger, wherein in that segment itself you can modify your research question. And even after you develop your research question, you should always do a pilot study to see whether the findings are in line with what you're thinking. And if it is not in line, it's better to like change your topic rather than like going ahead with it. Then coming to basically data compilation, I think it's one of the most boring jobs. Even I get bored while doing that. But the problem is, you can't delegate it to someone else as well, because you as a researcher you have to maintain the integrity of the data, and if someone else messes up something, then it's a like huge mistake, and I mean the entire interpretation and everything gets affected. So again, data compilation, I believe, I mean sometimes it might take days to do it as well. There are some ways in which you can make it easier. So I use something called as an EDC, electronic data capture. So you can kind of make a software wherein you can just click rather than typing. So you can just click what you want, and I think using an EDC in my thesis helped me reduce my time for data compilation by about 10 times. So suppose if I was taking about 40 hours to enter the data, I could do the entire thing in 4 hours. So it does help you. Again, building the EDC will require some amount of skill, but yeah, I mean there are various ways to build an EDC. So that will help you in compilation, so that you can do it yourself and not delegate it to anyone, or you are not bored while doing it. And then again, coming to data analysis. So in analysis, people usually face problems because of the fact that while planning their study, while preparing the protocol, people don't really think, what will I do with this data? And even in a lot of ethics committees, there are people who are not like acquainted with biostatistics. So they let you go even if you don't write anything in your statistical analysis. Even if you write, the statistical analysis will be decided later, still they let you go. But the thing is, when you like design your protocol, that's when you have to decide what you have to do with your data. So if you kind of pre-plan everything and you assume what kind of data you're going to get, you can also build some mock data and see how your final data will look like. So I think if you have everything pre-planned and you literally know which tests to carry out, which not to carry out, you can also consult a PSM or a pharmacology person right at the start of your study. So I believe if things are very clear, then I don't think there's a problem with data analysis. Yeah.
One of the things which undergrads tend to face a lot, rather not just undergrads, in fact, even at graduate level or professorships, uh, whoever's superior to you basically sort of pokes you into getting into the first offer because that also improves their profile.
Hmm.
So, any way to sensitively deal with this?
Okay. So like I said that in some cases, wherein like I told you that there are professors who have research questions in their mind, and if you are someone who's good at systematic review and meta-analysis, you can just work with them just to get that experience. But I believe if it's a research question of your own, and you want to like do this without sharing an authorship, you can maybe go in for something like a commentary or a letter to the editor or a systematic review and meta-analysis. So in that sense, you don't need an ethical approval, and you won't need to include a faculty in your project, and you can maybe publish it, just having your name in that. That is one way, at a junior level to deal with this, I believe. But again, if you're someone who doesn't like have any research question, then I think the one who decides the research question has the right to maybe bully you and take the first authorship, even if you have worked
Fair enough.
more.
True. Very true.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for that.
Okay, sir, one of the questions that we also received is how much does it cost to publish a paper? Like these article processing charges or APCs or article processing fees. What is the average cost? And is there any way to bypass it?
So basically, in my 22 accepted articles, I have only paid in 4 articles. 18 of my articles have been free, and especially the ones in high impact journals have been free. To tell you, there are almost 5,500 PubMed index journals, and out of that, more than 2,500 journals allow you to publish for free. So if you ask me, ideally, if you're planning to publish in a high impact journal, I think you can easily publish for free. Uh, Coming to publication cost, if you look at Indian journals, sometimes they vary from 3,000 to maybe 40,000 maximum. If you try to publish in an international journal, okay, there the APC is in dollars. So it's something about $3,500 or something, which is almost more than 1.5 lakhs. And it is not an option. So if you want to publish in an international high impact journal, which is open access, it's not at all an option. But not all journals are open access. Like more than 50% of them allow you an open choice or a subscription based publishing wherein you can publish it for free. And I mean, I have never encountered a problem with the APC. I used to think initially that, maybe there is a lot of competition in these free journals, and that's why maybe my article is not getting published. But if I agree to publish in a paid journal, maybe there's a higher chance. But I think it's just a myth and it doesn't exist. And even if, sometimes you feel that there are very, few journals in that subject area wherein you want to publish, and you feel that okay, I have no other option but to go for a paid journal, you can write to them for a waiver. Like for example, BMJ is a paid journal, BMC is also a paid journal. So there you can write to them for a waiver. And in the past, I've written for a waiver and they've accepted my waiver, subject to acceptance through peer review. So, I mean, even if you're not able to like pay, it's not a problem. You can tell them that we are students and we don't earn, etc. I think that is not at all an issue. Again, you have to also like be wary about a few predatory journals wherein they accept it very easily for a payment. So predatory journals are basically journals where they will accept it irrespective of whatever, and sometimes they don't even review the manuscript. And in these journals, it's better to not publish them because they leave a negative impact on your CV. So if someone is reviewing your CV, uh, this will probably give you -1 point rather than giving you +1 point. So it's better to avoid publishing in a predatory journal. Yeah.
Okay, sir. I think regarding money matters, I think that was the last question. And as it is, money
Uh-huh.
is a very sensitive issue because students don't earn, and
Yeah.
in medical field as it is, the earning starts quite late. So that's it, sir, pretty much from our side. These were all the
Uh-huh.
questions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for all the viewers, we have something special for you. Switch India, in collaboration with Dr. Rajmohan sir, we are going to conduct one-on-one counseling sessions. In this, Dr. Rajmohan sir will himself be guiding you and mentoring you through your queries. This now is a golden chance for all you people who want to get a publication done or probably are stuck in some phase of your research. So get in touch with us. We will leave the contact information down in the description. Thank you so much, Dr. Rajmohan sir. It was indeed a great, great pleasure to have you converse through entirety of all our doubts, all our members' questions, and we really hope to keep associating with you in the future as well. Thank you so much, sir.